Hello, Midnight TCG members. This is Midnight Fox. We're coming to you with this week's Competitive Edge podcast. This week, we have myself, Midnight Fox. We have begrudgingly Genzaki. What happened to They'll Never Take Me Alive?
Apparently I got taken alive.
Apparently. And Eddie Phoenix.
I overshot my first shot with damn birds. Now I'm kind of mad.
This is why you don't trust birds.
Everybody knows the bird is the word. Well, the bird. The bird is the word. Well, the bird. The bird is the word.
Kill it with fire.
Okay. So anyways, we've covered quite a few things in our Competitive Edge podcast, and we figured it was time to get back to the roots of what the Competitive Edge podcast was really created for, which is giving you, the duelists, a competitive edge. So this week's topic...
I thought it was created to talk about elemental heroes.
Well, that was when All City King was with us. It was a hero week every week. But anyways...
That's always a hero week. You're all my heroes.
This week, we're talking about cards that can make an impact in the game. They may be cards that newer duelists don't know about. And when I say cards that can affect the game, I'm talking about for budget players, maybe people who don't have a big binder, a big amount of monsters to pull from, or cards, spells, and traps that they need that are staples. And so we're looking at some cards that can make an impact into the game that are either overlooked because you're unfamiliar with the game or you're new to the game. So, to start off for the Fox, my first card I wanted to kind of cover is Jinzo. Jinzo is so overlooked, and I've said this for quite a few formats, with him unrestricted, Royal Decree being unrestricted. We're in a trap-heavy meta. You know, we have a lot of monsters that do destruction, and we do have Dark Hole. But for the most part, all of our removal from the field comes in the area of traps. Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, Dimensional Prison, 2 Mirror Force, 2 Torrential, Compulsory Evacuation Devices, all getting to be staple cards. Jinzo shuts these down. The other good thing, why I picked him, which is one of the things we're covering, just for those of you who kind of want to know the things we're going to go into, we're going to kind of talk about why we picked it, how does it offset the meta, how easy is it to come by, and how would you abuse it. So back to Jinzo, not only does he shut down the trap zone, but with Call of the Haunted at 3 and having Monster Reborn, and with him being a dark and having 3 Escape from the Dark Dimensions, you have a lot of ways to special summon this guy back. And even if those cards, Escape from the Dark Dimension, All the Haunted, leave the field, you've still got your Jinzo, because you've shut down the trap zone. He's great with 2,400 attack stats. Yeah, his defense is a little lacking at 1,500. But 2,400, he's going to go toe-to-toe with a lot of monsters. And you can also use him for Xyz summons, for like Photon Strike Bouncer. If you want to shut down effects on the field, a couple of Jinzos, you got a Bouncer out. You want to go with number 25, Force Focus, 2 of these guys, slap them together. He's 6 stars, so he's 1 tribute. So even if you have to tribute summon him, it's not as steep as a price as some of your other guys that would be right around in the same attack stats. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I picked him, and we got different areas we're going to talk about on it. So there are other reasons I picked it. So I think I pretty much covered how does it offset the meta. That is that since we're in such a trap-heavy meta, it shuts down a lot of engines that are so dependent on traps. How easy is it to come by? It was released in a 10. It was released in Pharaoh's Servant. It was released in the Yugi Anniversary Pack. It was released in Battle Pack 1. Any other ones I'm forgetting about, guys?
Oh wait, yeah, you said the anniversary one, yeah. YAP.
You said a gold pack?
Four ways. And the Battle Pack 1, he's rare.
Yeah, gold and battle packs. So.
Oh, gold. Yes, he was released as a gold. 5 different packs he was released in. So the ability to get a hold of a Jinzo is pretty easy. That's another reason I picked this guy. He's going to be easier to come by than some of your other level 6s, like a favorite being Caius. And how would I abuse it? I think I covered that pretty well. Monster Reborn, Call It 3, Escape from the Dark Dimension. He's not affected by those. And not to mention, he's good fodder if you have to go into a synchro summon. Because right now, probably the more popular, as they've always been, tuner monsters are going to be Plague Spreader Zombie Krebins. Why? Easy summons, Plague Spreader, put a card back on top of the deck, he's back. Emergency teleport, you got out of Krebins. Simple, easy. Level 8 monster, you go into your Scrap Dragon, you go into your Stardust Dragon, you go into Thought Ruler Archfiend. Another one of my favorites. But that's my thoughts on Jinzo. Why I picked him, how he offsets it, how easy he is to come by, and how I would abuse it. Jen, Eddie, either of you got any thoughts to add to thoughts on Jinzo?
Not really. You covered all of it. Jinzo is a fairly simple card, easy to abuse, great effect, good set of stats.
And I'm just amazed that more people don't run him, considering how easy he is to get a hold of now. In past metas, yeah, he was pretty hard to get a hold of. But with 5 different releases of this guy, he's a guy you can pick up pretty cheaply. And if you don't have some of the options that meta decks run, he's a good level 6 to go for.
Yeah. I have to agree there because, I love Jinzo because of the fact of him being able to just come out and just go, Chaps, nope, you're not working. And, him being the target of mainly like smashing ground and things like that.
Here's a beautiful play. One of the most annoying anti-meta decks. Shuts down your spell and trap zone. Which one am I talking about? 6 Sams. So you summon out Jinzo, limited removal. He gets destroyed during the end phase. Guess what? Next standby phase, I'm going to activate my Call of the Haunted and bring him back, and I'm going to get rid of all of your monsters, like your Great Shogun Shien and your legendary 6 Samurai Shien, that are stopping me. Abusability. We are in a trap-heavy meta, and, if you're setting up for like a heavy storm because you're worried about a Gemini Spark or something, then their ability to activate Starlight Road or Solemn Judgment to stop it is gone. You've got Jinzo out. Esperoba would be proud to see him still making an impact. So, that's my thoughts, and if anybody doesn't have anything else to add...
I'd say the reason we probably don't see him be played as much is you say we're in a trap-heavy meta, and I slightly disagree. Like, it's a valid point. Some of our best removal cards are trapped, but I'd say we're in more of a spell-heavy meta. Your traps are your defenses, whereas your spells are where a lot of people want to hit you when they're forming their strategies.
Well, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Burial from a Different Dimension, Foolish Bear, yeah. There are, but most of your removal, other than your monster effects, I think
Well, that, and I'm not just talking about removal. I'm talking about just blocking things in general. They want to hit you where your strategy is going to start rather than where it's going to end. And sure, Jinzo is great, but a lot of people are looking for a little more, which is why I don't think he's run.
Well, that's what we're here for, differing opinions. But for me, it's a good, to me, anti-meta card that people don't see coming because Jinzo has kind of dropped off the radar so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad to see for such a pretty good card. Is he the best card in the game? No, but he definitely makes his impact known.
That's for sure.
Kind of sad, but just he's one of my budget thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, 5 reprints, great card to get a hold of cheaply. It's going to cost you a little bit more if you want the cool ones like Pharaoh's Servant, but if you're just looking to play it, Battle Pack costs you $1 to $2.
My favorite version is the Dark Beginnings ultra rare version of it.
Oh, see, you just said a 6th one. See? That's what you guys are here for. I forgot there was Dark Beginnings. That's 6 releases of Jinzo. So, yeah. It's going to be a little easier to get a hold of since, like, even though Caius is somewhat easy, a little easier than cards like Caius, your other level 6s are to get a hold of. Any other thoughts on Jinzo?
Eh.
Then I'll pass it on to Jim Zaki, and he has a pretty interesting card to talk about. So let's hear your thoughts on your pick. I'm not going to spoil it.
My pick is responsible for probably the most annoying loss a lot of people who are veterans to the game will have ever faced. It was the card that, when combined with Last Turn, just completely ruined moods. And that would be Jowgen the Spiritualist. What I love about this card is just the simpleness of his concept. Is when he comes to the field, all he's saying is these special summons have to stop. He's doing the Samuel L. Jackson. I'm tired of these motherfucking special summons in this motherfucking game. He's pretty simple, light type, good for chaos. 3 stars, so once you've done what you need with him, you can go for his Zen mains or whatever you want. You've got attack of 200, so not great for 3 stars, but a defense of 1300, which is very nice. Spellcaster effect is discard 1 random card from your hand to the graveyard to destroy all special summon monsters on the field. As long as this card remains face up on the field, no monsters can be special summoned. And given how big the current meta is on special summons, you could let your opponent set up a very nice field and just drop this on them. And if you do it right, it's only pluses, because you're drop Jowgen, discard 1 random card. You don't get to pick the card. That's kind of painful. But the ability to say, let's say your opponent's playing a spam heavy deck and they just brought out 5 very nice monsters, and now they're all gone. That hurts. And that's what this card does. As for abuse, if you could say play it in chaos builds, obviously. Use it, potentially drop a dark monster to the grave, or just drop something that will fuel the summoning of a Blackluster soldier, or you could play it in Infernity, because you're in Infernity you're going to want to empty your hand anyway. It's really just playing it is the abuse of the card.
I'm going to say, in a lot of ways, I agree with you. I'm just going to break this apart kind of like you did. Looking at it, he's a 3-star. A lot of our power monsters and exceed monsters come from rank 3s. Great rank to be at, or level to be at. Spellcaster. That means you can activate cards like Magical Dimension to get him out, or you can use it on him. Or Magician's, not Unite, the one where you declare an attack and then you find one with 2,000 or less attack.
Magician's Circle.
Magician's Circle. A special summon with that. Here's what's beautiful about him. Want to go into 3 of them and make sure he's protected? Inferno Reckless summon. Boom. He's out to the field in triplicate. So you can either
with no special summons, you're going to be hard pressed to take him down.
Yeah. And very forgotten card that would help this guy immensely, especially if you put him in defense. Heart of Clearwater. It's an equip card. You equip it. That monster cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. The only way to get rid of him is to get rid of Heart of Clearwater. You just shut down the entire special summon engine until they get rid of that. And that's why you have a Starlight Road or a Solemn Judgment or something to protect that back row sitting in the backfield. Forgotten card, but since he does have the stats of 200, so he's not going to bump over 1,000 unless your opponent somehow magically makes it happen. Not going to happen. Because most of our cards that are meta, like Forbidden Lance and stuff, take away attack. So, Heart of Clearwater. If you really want to protect him and you want him to be an integral part of your build, Heart of Clearwater is going to keep this guy safe. And you can do your normal summons and keep control and make sure your opponent cannot spam you. As far as re-releases, how many releases, Jen?
I'm only aware of 2, and that is the original release. I believe he was released in Magic Rulers, and then he was released again in Dark Beginnings 2.
I believe that was it, but I'm going to double check just so.
Let's see, we got Tournament Pack 5 as well.
Yes, that's what I was getting to. How many different yeah, there's Tournament Pack 5, there's Dark Beginnings 2, and there was his original release.
Yeah, Labyrinth of Nightmare.
Labyrinth of Nightmare. So 3 releases, but he's an overlooked card. So
yeah, he's overlooked and cheap.
Yeah, it's going to be dirt cheap to get a hold of him. And if you're a fan of Secret Village of the Spellcasters and you're running a pure spellcaster build, this is a great way to control what your opponent can do with spells. Get a Genzo out, put him out with a Heart of Clearwater. Now your opponent can't special summon, activate spells, or activate traps as long as they can't get a spellcaster on the field. You can put your opponent into complete and total lock. Overlooked, is it going to be a hard combo to pull off? Yes, very hard, but is it possible? It is possible. You can completely control it.
You don't even need the Heart of Clearwater to complete the lock. It's really Genzo, Jalgan, and Mystic Village, which I don't see as being overly difficult to accomplish.
How many cards do you need to do this?
Well, I say Heart of Clearwater to make sure they can't beat him in battle.
Yeah, I get that, but just the initial point of the strategy is to get them into that lock state will be fairly easy. And if you've got control of the magic cards, you could have something quick play waiting, like a Book of Moon or something along that lines. Or if you want to go a step further, Amplifier on Genzo. But that would just be crazy.
Basically, he allows you to set up the field however you want. So definitely a good pick to look at. Definitely an overlooked card. and definitely a card that a budget player could pick up if they built. But really, what you have to look at with it is you're going to have to build the deck around it to keep them protected. But this is a good option because wind-ups, steel topping, rabbit variants, steel topping, mermails, topping, fire fist, topping. All of these are special summon heavy. So if you have the ability to shut down a special summon engine, use it. And if you have a cheap way to do it and you're a budget player, you can't afford to go out and buy those, Jowgen is definitely a card to give a second look at.
Mm-hmm. And my initial thoughts also was just the idea of he is very nice for if you can get him into your hand. He is your little gambit card. Wipe out as many special summons as you can, and then set your own field up to do a lot of damage. So if that's what you're looking for, you don't even need to build the deck around him. He can just tack into it just about anything.
Any way around, he does have abusability. It's just how you want to use him. He's a good overlooked card that's going to be easy to come by. So definitely one or newer players may not know about, and with so many options, older players may not look at anymore. Definitely a great pick. Eddie, you got any thoughts on Jowgen?
Nope. Everything's pretty much essentially every way covered.
There is one last thing I want to cover on that, is the continuous effect. If you're running against Skill Drain, much like Spirit Reaper, the continuous effect stays in play. As long as he's face up on the field, no monsters can be special summoned. So you can shut down special summon engines still in Skill Drain because continuous effect monsters are not, their continuous effects are not affected by Skill Drain. So that stays in effect. Another good point to Jowgen. So if Eddie doesn't have any more thoughts on that, we're going to move on to his first card.
First card goes to Tyrant's Throes. Why did I pick it? It's a cheap card. You can find it for 25 cents at most, I would say. Granted, it's only been printed in one pack.
That's on Shockwave.
On Shockwave. But the effect of the card, it's really abusable. The effect is, activate by attributing 2 normal monsters you control, except tokens. Neither player can normal or special summon effect monsters. Hello, almost every single meta deck in today's game not being able to normal summon or special summon effect monsters. That's how it offsets the meta. It's easy to come by because it's cheap. And how do I abuse it? I play Rabbit. I ditch Rabbit to the exiled section. I then drop my 2 normal monsters. I set my back rows. Go. Okay. Draw. Standby phase. Activate Tyrant's Throes. Take my 2 monsters. Put them in my graveyard. You can't do a darn thing. Except, try to destroy it. Or I can go with the Agent of Creation Venus. Special summon 3 Mystic Shine Balls. And then, set my back rows. Go. During my opponent's standby phase, I create the card, tribute 2 out of 3 Shine Balls, and then start swinging. I can also, if need be, have Imperial Custom be able to block things like Mystical Space Typhoon and keep it on the field. And so, without my opponent being able to special summon or normal summon any effect monsters, I can just go poke, 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 and with a vanilla beatdown deck, just poke, poke, other than having traps and whatever, but you get the essential idea.
Now, I'm going to kind of agree and disagree with you on my thoughts on Tyrant's Throes. The engines you talked about are viable, using Venus to summon Mystical Shine Balls Rabbit to get off the effect. And this would be great in a Beast Warrior deck with cards like Tinky, Gene Warped Warwolf, Borscht Raider, using Tinky and abusing it to search to get into those two monsters. The bad thing. The bad. Number one, your opponent can still get their special summon monsters out. Every card has a weakness. The one way around Tyrant's Throes, flip summon. As long as it's face down and you flip it face up, you didn't normal summon, you didn't special summon, you can still get that effect monster out. And it's a continuous spell, so with Mystical Space Typhoon at 3, Dust Tornado at 3, Gemini Spark, every bit of destruction, Wind Up Zen Mains, some others I want to think of. You're going to have a lot of ability to get rid of this card. Your opponent can use a Zen Mains. You attack their Zen Mains, they're going to use that to get rid, if they already had it out, to get rid of Tyrant's Throes. Mystical Space Typhoon at 3, Dust Tornado at 3, and Dust Tornado gives them the ability to set a Stellar Trap from their hand during that turn.
I understand that, but I'm going to be doing every little bit I can to protect.
I'm going to say the best way to protect it is you're really going to have to base a lot of your spell and trap around keeping that safe. So, Judgment of Anubis, Starlight Road, Solemn Judgment, Dark Bribe. It's going to take a lot of resources to keep it out there. But if you can, yes, it can affect the state of the game because, let's face it, Mermails, Madolches, Spellbook/Prophecy decks, every meta deck is highly dependent on special summons. Tour Guide into Tour Guide or Tour Guide into Tour Bus, Assailant, whatever level 3s, Rabbit variants. Every deck has to rely on a special summon engine that is the higher tiered decks.
Yeah.
So, can that hurt it? Yes, but are there going to be viable options to get rid of it? Yes. So you're going to have to do a lot of protection to keep Tyrant's Throes out there. That's the only part I disagree on throwing it in there. But if you're willing to put the resources into it to keep that out there and keep it in control, there are so many 2,000 beaters in Vanilla Monsters, Gene Warped Warwolf, Alexandrite Dragon, your 1,900 beaters in Mad Dog of Darkness, Gladiator Beast Andal, Borscht Raider, so on and so. There's so many big, high vanilla beaters that you probably could waste the resources to keep this guy safe. And if you're running a vanilla deck, this is the perfect opportunity to use Birthright.
Yep.
3 Birthrights, 3 Call the Hornets, Monster Reborn, and the rest just protecting Tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, darn, I just kind of slapped myself in the face on that. Neither.
Special summon.
Oh, wait a minute. Affect monsters. So if you're using vanillas, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can also create draw engines in those with White Elephant's Gift, Common Charity, Heart of the Underdog.
Yeah.
So there is the playability of it.
And plus, I mean,
my only differing opinion to it is how easily it can be destroyed and the amount of resources you're going to have to use to make sure that don't happen.
I know. I mean, you can use like 3 dark. You can use triple Dark Bribe, triple Magic Jammer if you wanted to. Just triples of a lot. You can, make it to where either A, your opponent gets a +1, or you just take a -1 to make sure that thing stays protected.
But it's a lot of resources to spend on one card. That's my only fault to it. But could it be?
Got lock your opponent. That's the thing. If they can't special summon or normal summon effect monsters, that kills a good bit of the meta.
That's where I agree with you. It does have the ability to do that. It is going to cost you 2 normal monsters. That is a bit of a steep price within itself, too. But if it gives you some form of control on the field, so be it.
Jin?
Yeah, my only thing was thinking about the Fox's point on being able to flip summon monsters. Yes, you could flip summon an effect monster, but that would be kind of on the fault of the person playing Tyrant's Throes if they weren't just continuously wiping your monsters out, because we don't see a lot of flip effect monsters anymore, and so most good effect monsters would be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Well,
it
just depends on what you're running.
I run Timer Throes and I run Skill Drain.
I'm just thinking like your cards that shut down draw engines, so on and so forth, like running Thunder Kings, Doom Calibers. They can still have the high effect monsters, but most of your meta decks, this could affect them. It has the ability, but I'd put it at a 50-50. If you're willing to spend the resources to keep it safe, this could change the state of the game, and it is pretty cheap to get a hold of at about $0.25 a piece. And it can be abused, but to me, my thoughts on it, could be abused, but can also be destroyed easily, and it's going to cost a lot of resources. So when I'd be deck building, I would be weighing out how I wanted to build it. But if you're willing to put the resources in to keep it safe, this could be a game changer, because every meta deck has to have special summons to make it pop.
Yep.
They can still be competitive, but they're not as quick without their special summons. So, with that down, any other thoughts, Jim?
No.
Let me go on to my second card. This card is so overlooked, and it's actually won a couple of wars I've been in because not a lot of people have paid attention to it. One-Eyed Skill Gainer.
Bless you.
Nobody paid a whole lot of attention to it. It was released in Abyss Rising. It's only been released once. Why do I pick it? Well, let's look at him. If you decide you don't want to run, or maybe you want to run side by side as a viable option against Shockmaster, he costs 3 level 4s, but he's 2,500 attack. You drop an Xyz unit, and then you target one face-up Xyz monster your opponent controls. That card gets its name and its original effect, and then say your opponent has Zenmain. Now you have a 2,500 attack, 2,600 defense Zenmain by dropping an Xyz unit. Say they got a Gachi Gantetsu. Great way to bolster your attack and defense with a high attack monster. So he's going to be at 2,900 attack. It's going to be hard to get rid of by taking your opponent's Gachi Gantetsu. A lot of people do not see it coming because he was kind of an overlooked card. How does it offset the meta? It offsets the meta because Konami has a way of pushing their new releases. I mean, we went from fusions to synchros, and a lot of people were like, well, I'm not going to leave fusions to go to synchros, and then everybody was running synchros. A lot of people, when we saw the release of the Xyz monsters, I'm not going to run Xyz. Man, I really like synchros. And what do we see? The majority of your extra deck is Xyz monsters. So odds are, any deck you face, you're going to face Xyz monsters. And with Zenmains being so easy to get a hold of now with all of its reprints and a lot of your power cards that have become staples in the extra deck getting reprinted quite commonly, it's going to offset the meta with the ability to take your opponent's Xyz monster. Even if they brought out a Shockmaster and you still have 2 Xyz units to drop for your own Shockmaster, and he has a higher attack, so you can get rid of their threat in a Shockmaster and still have Shockmaster's effect on your guy. How easy is it to come by? It's only been released once, but you can pick it up for anywhere between $2 to $3 because, again, he's an overlooked card. Nobody really gave a lot of love to this guy, but this guy has been the key to a few of my wins in wars because nobody really paid attention to him. And the ability to copy his Zen mains and still maintain that attack and defense is quite deadly. To take a Maystroke or a Photon Papal Operative or anything else, Leviair. I got a 2500 attack Leviair that I can bring back from the removed from game zone. I can steal your rabbit if I'm running a rabbit variant. Very easily abused because so many people have switched to running Xyz monsters. So go ahead, let your opponent Xyz summon away and then use Skill Gainer to turn their Xyz monsters against them. So, kind of my spiel on One-Eyed Skill Gainer. Kind of quick, but I think he's overlooked right now. And if you can't get a hold of Shockmasters, which would be hard to say, it's not easy with them getting re-released as a super, or some of the other meta Xyz monsters, or say you can't find anybody in your area to get his Zenmates from, this guy is a viable option to look at. He's going to cost you 3 level 4s, but in the long run he's going to pay off with a high attack, a high defense, and the ability to copy your opponent's Xyz monsters. Eddie's laughing evilly.
I'll wait.
Jinzaki, any thoughts?
Nope.
Eddie, let's hear what that evil laugh was all about.
Well, we were looking for a thing to help Tyrant's Throws. And I think I just found my answer with Macrocosmos.
Oh, so we're talking about when we get to your last card.
Yep, my last card is Macrocosmos.
Any thoughts on One-Eyed Skill Gainer before we move on then?
One-Eyed Skill Gainer, it's one of those cards to where, depending on what deck you're going against, like if you're going up against Heroes or Six Ams, if you want to use his ability of being able to ditch 1, copy 1, and then use its effect, I think most of the times you're going to be copying something along the lines of the Excalibur, or like for the Six Ams, you're going to be copying the Six Samurai monster as soon as you can.
Shadow.
Or of course you're going to be copying Zen Mains or Shockmaster.
I'm going to say if you're looking at your local scene, know your local scene before you decide that he's going to be a viable option.
Yeah.
But if you're going to a regionals or a YCS, this guy could be a jack in the box because you know you're going to see heavy Xyz play. On the local scene, know your locals. If they run a lot of synchros, if they run a lot of just normal summoning, special summoning, and not worrying so much on Xyz engines, then maybe he's a side deck option for a rogue deck you play or a meta deck that you don't see a whole lot of. Maybe he's a good side deck option to put in there. But definitely, if you're going to a YCS or a regional, he's something to give thought to on tossing in there, because you're going to run into Zen Mains, you're going to run into Leviair, you're going to run into Black Ship of Corn, you're going to run into Shockmaster, just to name 4 off the top of my head. I definitely would say Ginzo kind of corrected me on this. I wouldn't take out Shockmaster to put him in, but I would put him alongside Shockmaster as a second option if you have 3 level 4s out. Because this guy can turn the tide of the game, and with Zen Mains, he has better stats than Zen Mains, but you still can gain its effect. You can still gain the effect of all these monsters, except you have a higher attack and a higher defense to abuse him with. My thoughts on One-Eyed Skill Gainer. So with that, pass it on to Eddie with his last card.
With my last card that makes you a little bit eviler. Okay, so we have Macrocosmos. This card, I love it. Its anime ability was remove from play 1 Alchemic Kettle Chaos Distill that you control. Special summon 1 Helios Primordial Sun from your hand or deck. Any card that you control will be sent to the graveyard and removed from play instead. That's from the English anime. But for just the English in general, it's when this card resolves, you can special summon 1 Helios Primordial Sun from your hand or deck. While this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. It's another one of those 25-cent cards you can pick up on the cheap because it's been released 6 different times. In Dark Revelations Volume 4, Dual Terminal 6, Raw Yellow Mega Pack, Legendary Collection 2, The Dual Academy Years, Structure Deck, The Dark Emperor, and Enemy of Justice. If anything I'm missing there, please let me know now.
I think that's the 6 releases we've seen of it.
Okay, now on to something that makes it a real dick. Because of its wording of effect, things you can do to lock down your opponent. You can use Gravekeeper Servant or Dimensional Fissure / Macrocosmos Macrocosmos to make it to where your opponent cannot attack you at all. Or, since we were on the Tyrants tonight, you can combo this card with Tyrant's Tantrum to lock your opponent from activating any spell cards, because Tyrant's Tantrum effect is you have to tribute 2 monsters, just like you do with Tyrant's Throws. But the effect of Tyrant's Tantrum is your opponent must send 1 spell card from their deck to the graveyard to activate a spell card. So goodbye activating spell cards, because your opponent cannot send to the graveyard, because with Macrocosmos on the field, it has to go out of play. You activate that, you activate Tyrant's Throws, now they can't normal or special summon, affect monsters, and just keep on swinging.
Affect Zeller's effect, gone, because it can't hit the graveyard.
Yep.
Little known fact to some people who don't play, I think we clarified this before though, the difference between it and D-Fissure. If your opponent's running Xyz monsters, D-Fissure still allows the Xyz units to hit the graveyard. Macrocosmos sends everything.
Everything. Spells, traps, seed monsters, everything.
And it sends the units with the Xyz monster.
Yes.
So if you get rid of that Xyz monster, its units are going too. They can go to the graveyard to be abused afterwards.
Yeah, and this only said that your opponent cannot activate spell cards. That means you still have your ability to be able to go, I MST that, I Dark Hole you, and with Imperial Order, you can protect both Tyrant's Tantrum and Tyrant's Throws. And Tyrant's Tantrum comes in the Extreme Victory as a common. So that's another 25-cent card. So if you can run a macro deck in this meta that we have now, you can essentially kill the top tier meta by being anti-meta all the way.
And the only problem is, and it's a small problem if you put some thought into it, is the deck, each card does require 2 normal monsters to be tributed, so the chances of getting both Tyrant's Tantrum and Tyrant's Throws off in one turn are rather limited.
Yeah, the whole combo in itself is going to be a pain, but if you can step it through, it could work.
For Tyrant's Throw, you need 2 normal monsters. For Tyrant's Tantrum, it just says tribute 2 monsters. Doesn't say normal monsters or whatever. So, you know that little Mystic Shine Ball effect? By being able to use the Venus? Hello!
Yeah, that's actually, Venus into 3 Shine Balls, get both cards off. Not a bad idea.
Well, with your thoughts on it, how does it, for me, Macrocosmos, how does it offset the meta? Almost all of your decks revolve around the graveyard. Light Swarms made a slight comeback. Blackwings rely on the graveyard, but your big dogs, Wind-Ups, rely on cards like Wind-Up Rat being able to bring things back from out of the graveyard. Madolches rely on things hitting the graveyard. Your Spellbook Prophecy decks rely on things going to the graveyard. Your Mermails rely on being able to discard to the graveyard. Your top tier decks, goodbye. 6 Samurais, very hurtful to them because they rely on being able to bring things back from the graveyard. So a lot of your top tier decks are going to be affected by its ability that it just demolishes everything out of play. Are there cards to bring things back from out of play? Leviair, Burial from a Different Dimension, but in almost every deck, there's not going to be enough resources within that deck to offset running Macrocosmos. How easy is it to come by, as we talked about? 6 releases. Common in 3 to 4, and then there's a super and an ultra, I think, release of Macrocosmos. How would you abuse it? For me, been running a deck that relies on Survivors, Scout Planes, and these are guys that when they're removed from play, they keep coming back. They keep flooding the field. 2DD Scout Planes for me is an easy Xyz into Gachi Gantetsu to give my monsters a boost, and when I drop them as Xyz units, they come back. How else do I abuse it? Personally, I abuse it against these top decks, like 6 Sams are probably 1.5 to 2 right now, even with Shein Smoke Signal going up to 3. But that, and when I'm running against an Xyz heavy deck, I activate my Macrocosmos to make sure everything goes out of play. Heroes. Either version, the Chaos Heroes or the Bubble Beat decks, they rely on things being in the graveyard for Miracle Fusion. The only skirt around that is Super Polymerization, and you're going to run into the rogue players and some of the top players who run Super Poly, but you're going to take Miracle Fusion out of the equation with Macrocosmos in play. Everything's going to be removed. Can that turn around and bite you if late game your opponent gets rid of macro and they find a way to get shining? Yeah, that's going to be hurtful. But the idea is to take your opponent out quickly. Heavily abused in Macro Monarchs, locked down with Ryza, removed from play with Caius, however you want to go with Monarchs, great way to abuse it. Like I said, it shuts down the ability of Mermail decks to play because they have to send things to the graveyard. It shuts down your opponent, their chances of effect veiling you. I love that effect. But for me, it's the special summons with the DD monsters, how I heavily abuse it. And it still allows me to go into Xyz summons and Synchro summons and get my monsters back. Remove everything from my opponent's grave from play and find ways to still abuse my side of the field. If you're going to run Macrocosmos, I would suggest at least running Survivors. Scout playing for me is a personal choice just because it's an easy gotcha with special summons back to the field. But definitely you want Survivors in there because Bottomless, oh, okay, well, you can remove it. It's just going to come back. So, just my thoughts on Macrocosmos. Jen, got any thoughts to add to Macrocosmos?
Nope, you covered everything.
Eddie, any more points?
No, sir.
Well, kind of a maybe somewhat shorter podcast, but I think we've given you some things to think about as we go along, and we'll probably talk more about some other cards. Get Genzo in on one of these podcasts with us. He had a few cards he wanted to talk about himself, but we definitely want to give you guys the edge as far as if you're a budget player or you don't have access to certain resources that are staples in the game, to still give you the competitive edge when you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So, kind of to end things out, big things popping on Midnight TCG. It is March, so it's time for Elite nominations again for this year. You can nominate up to 2 people. People with the top 8 votes are going to go into a vote, and the top 4 will be our new elites for 2013. So visit the important announcements area and pick your nominations for elites. What we're looking at these guys, is people who are contributing to the board that you see contributing heavily. Could you potentially nominate staff members and all that? Yeah, that's great. But we want to get some of you members more involved that are just regular members. So this is your opportunity to really shine. And if you see someone who's really shining on the board, to get their name out there and maybe make us notice them a little more. Other than that, we've got trade section going. TDA has a little contest going up for an Inzektor Giga Mantis right now. Something I used to do. We want to see how it goes. Make sure you're checking out our weekly articles over Card of the Week, Worst Card of the Week, and Forbidden Reviews. And here lately, the type articles that I've been typing up. Into the Dueling Grounds area. Yu-Gi-Oh! Forum / Midnight TCG Grand Prix Tournament. We're 3 rounds in. 2 rounds of the main left to go. And then top 8, top 4. And then finals. Top 2 duelists. Get a Prophecy Destroyer 10, which I have sitting and waiting to ship out. If you registered on both sites, you've got the opportunity to win a mat or a Calcujotter just for registering on both sites in the raffle. We're going to be starting our Midnight TCG Weekly Championship Series. Want to be king of the forum? Want to show you're king of games? Here's your chance to shine. No restrictions, no themes thrown out. This is your chance to shine. And every week we'll have a new champion depending on who wins the tournament. Last tournament still going on. Those are themed for number 50 Black Ship of Corn. And we're trying out Deck of the Month again. This month is Showing us your spirit. Your deck must contain at least 10 spirit monsters within it. Other than that, the rest of your deck is up to you. Got Felicity Ryan welcoming her aboard in the entertainment section. So take a look at some of her gaming section. Take a look at some of her articles in the gaming section. And King Guy Pie is starting to put out some information in the entertainment section. So if you're a sports fanatic, movie fanatic, take a look at some of the stuff he's putting up in there. And other than that, there are a few spots on staff if anybody's interested in looking at becoming a staff member. Read through the staff application. If you make an impact on the board, you have an opportunity to become part of the staff. We're a quickly growing community. We have lots of contests, lots of chances to win free stuff, and I think we have one of the best friendly communities around. But maybe I'm a little biased in that. So other than that, we'll let Eddie Phoenix diddly-dee